There's a quiet pattern playing out between men and women that almost nobody names directly. You feel it. You've lived it. But you never had the language for it. It doesn't happen in obvious moments. Not just when she says, "not tonight." Not just when she suddenly becomes affectionate after a fight. It happens in the subtle shifts. How her body language changes when you disappoint her. How intimacy appears and disappears depending on what you do for her. How you start to feel like access to her body is a reward you earn, not something that flows from genuine desire. And that's the part most men can't articulate. It's not the lack of sex that breaks you. It's realizing how easily sex can become a lever, a quiet lever she can pull to bend your behavior. There's a moment you remember, even if you buried it. You're lying next to her. Same bed, same room, same woman, but something feels off. Her body is turned slightly away. Her responses are shorter. The warmth that used to be automatic now feels measured, calculated, like she's deciding how much you deserve. You reach out, and you feel it. The hesitation, the delay, the half second where she decides whether to give in or pull back. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't reject you outright. But you know this isn't about her being tired. It's about something else. Something you can't see, but you can feel in the air like pressure before a storm. That's when it starts. You begin doing more. You try harder. You become more careful with your words. You avoid small conflicts because somewhere in the back of your mind you've linked something. Peace in the home, peace in the bedroom, conflict in the home, cold distance at night. So you adjust, quietly. You start walking around invisible tripwires you never agreed to. You start negotiating with yourself. Is this issue worth an argument? Is this boundary worth a week of her being distant? You might not say those exact words, but your behavior shows the math. And this is where most men lose themselves without realizing it. On the surface, it just looks like you're trying to keep the peace. You're being a good man, a patient man, an understanding man. But underneath, you've started trading self-respect for access. You've started linking your worth as a man to whether she wants you tonight. Not dramatic, not exaggerated. Just quietly corrosive. You've seen it in other men too, even if you didn't name it. The husband who suddenly becomes overly accommodating whenever his wife gives him the cold shoulder. The boyfriend who puts his own needs second because she's just been stressed lately, I don't want to push her. The man who starts treating intimacy like a coupon he has to earn through chores, money, or constant emotional performance. He laughs it off with jokes. Happy wife, happy life. You know how it is, man, I'm on a dry spell. But behind those jokes is a simple truth. He feels controlled. He just doesn't know how to say it without sounding weak or ungrateful. Here's the truth. Some women use sex as a way to control men. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but effectively. And the devastating part is this. Most men don't even realize it's happening until they've already shaped their entire behavior around avoiding that withdrawal. Let's break this down layer by layer. Layer 1, what it looks like on the surface. On the surface, it looks simple. You upset her, she pulls back physically. You do what she wants, she's suddenly affectionate again. You remember something thoughtful, help with something important, pay for something she values. The energy changes. The gate opens. It appears in different ways. She's too tired after every time you disagree with her. She's suddenly not in the mood whenever you set a boundary. Intimacy ramps back up after you apologize. Even if you weren't really wrong, she becomes more physically available right before she asks for something big. You've felt that pattern. Argument, distance, you cave or soothe, intimacy restored. Logically, you tell yourself it's just emotional. She needs to feel connected to be physical. She just has a lower drive than me. She's more emotional than I am. Sometimes, yes, that's real. But sometimes, that's not what's actually happening. Because if it was only about emotional connection, the withdrawal of sex wouldn't be so precisely timed to moments where she doesn't get her way. Here's something men rarely understand. When intimacy becomes inconsistent, men rarely think I'm being manipulated. They think I'm failing. That's the first hook. You don't see it as control. You see it as proof that you're not enough. So you don't resist. You work harder. And that's the part that makes this so effective. A woman doesn't have to scream, threaten, or demand. She just has to open and close one door, the door to her body. Layer 2. What's really happening underneath? Let me be real with you. Sex isn't just physical for men. It's identity. It's affirmation. It's how you feel chosen. You can be respected at work, admired by friends, praised by strangers. But if the woman you share a bed with constantly denies you, avoids you, or gives herself half-heartedly, you start questioning everything. Maybe I'm not attractive enough. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm just asking for too much. Meanwhile, what's happening beneath the surface is this. Sex becomes currency. Instead of being an expression of mutual desire, it becomes a reward she gives or a punishment she withholds. You become predictable. Once she sees you change your tone, your boundaries, your behavior just to restore physical closeness, she knows she has a lever. Your frame collapses. You start orienting your choices around her reactions instead of your principles. And the saddest part is this. Most of this isn't discussed openly, even between couples. She won't say, if you don't do what I want, I'm not sleeping with you. She'll just not feel like it. She'll genuinely convince herself it's not control. It's just how she feels. But those feelings conveniently align with whether she's getting her way. The trap isn't that she says no to sex. The trap is that she uses how wanted you feel to indirectly shape what you do, and your brain is wired to respond. Let's get into the mechanics of it. A man's brain links sex with validation, I'm wanted, I'm chosen. Security, we're good. The relationship is stable, relief, a release of built-up tension, not just physical, but emotional. When sex is consistently present, his nervous system reads safe. When it's consistently withdrawn, his nervous system reads threat. Not a tiger threat, a different kind. You might be rejected. You might be replaced. You might not be enough. That fear doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in overthinking. Did I say something wrong? Is she losing interest? Is she talking to someone else? It shows up in overcompensating. You buy more, you fix more, you apologize more. Here's what really happens. Your stress response gets quietly activated. When intimacy is unpredictable, your body moves into a low-level survival mode. You don't feel relaxed around her. You feel like you're being graded. You start scanning for signs. Every touch, every sigh, every turned shoulder feels like data. Your brain is trying to predict when you'll be allowed back in. You lose your natural polarity. Instead of being grounded, you become reactive. Instead of leading, you start managing. Instead of being yourself, you become a version of yourself that hopes to be rewarded. Not because you're weak, because you're human. Men aren't destroyed by lack of sex alone. They're destroyed by what the lack of sex symbolizes. I'm not enough. I'm not wanted. I'm only desired when I perform. And that symbol goes deep. It starts connecting back to every moment in your life where you felt overlooked, unwanted, unchosen. The boy who was invisible. The teenager who got friend-zoned. The man who watched her glow for someone else. So when the woman you've committed to uses sex, intentionally or not, as a way to regulate you, it doesn't feel like one woman's decision. It feels like reality confirming your deepest fear. You only get love when you earn it. That's why this hits so hard. That's why men bend. Layer 3. The darkest truth. Nobody admits. Here's the dark truth. When a woman uses sex to control a man long enough, he eventually stops seeing her as a lover. He sees her as a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper to his self-worth. The gatekeeper to his peace. The gatekeeper to whether he goes to bed relieved or restless. And once that switch happens, two dangerous outcomes appear. Resentment quietly builds. He still does the favors, still helps, still shows up. But every time intimacy is dangled, then withdrawn, A brick is added to a wall inside him. He stops sharing his real thoughts. He stops being fully present. He stops viewing her as someone he can be raw with and instead sees her as someone he has to negotiate with. He begins detaching emotionally while staying physically. He's still there. Still paying, still providing, still appearing loyal. But his heart has migrated somewhere else. To his work, his gym, his hobbies, his silence. You see it in the man who stays married but lives in his own world. You see it in the boyfriend who stops initiating altogether, not because he lost interest in women, but because he lost interest in begging. And the brutal part? By the time he finally leaves or emotionally checks out, she tells people he just changed, he stopped caring. She'll never say, I trained him to betray himself in order to be close to me, and one day he finally stopped playing. What men learn too late is this. By allowing sex to become a tool of control, they silently teach her that their needs don't matter. Only her moods do. Snapshots of control. You've seen this. You've felt it. You remember nights where you reached for her and she stiffened. Not dramatically, just enough. You pulled back, told yourself, it's fine, she's tired, and went to bed staring at the ceiling, pretending you weren't disappointed. You remember the fight where you stood your ground. She went cold for 3 days. Short replies, no warmth. In bed, her back turned, body like a wall. On day 4, you apologized for something you didn't even believe was wrong, just to feel that wall soften and her body turn toward you again. You remember the phase where she barely touched you for weeks. Then suddenly, right before that trip she wanted, that purchase she'd been hinting at, that favor she needed, she became sweet, affectionate, suddenly felt like it again. You knew on some level what was happening, but you ignored it. Because pretending it was just coincidence was less painful than admitting she knows exactly what she's doing. Why some women use sex to control men. Not every woman does this. Not every woman even has the capacity for it. But the ones who do usually don't wake up saying, I'm going to manipulate him with sex today. It's more subtle than that. Here's something men rarely understand. Women grow up learning, explicitly and implicitly, that their attractiveness, their body, their approval, hold power. They watch how the world responds, how men treat them differently when they flirt, how quickly men change behavior when sex is on the table or off of it. So when a woman hasn't healed, hasn't grown, hasn't developed healthy ways to communicate or set boundaries, she falls back on the oldest tool she knows works: access. If she's scared of confrontation, she pulls away instead of speaking. If she feels insecure, she uses sex to test if you'll chase. If she wants something big, she turns up the affection to grease the decision. If she's angry and doesn't know how to express it, she withholds to make you feel it. On the surface, it looks like mood and stress. Underneath, it's emotional regulation through control. The trap isn't that she has this power, the trap is that you act like you don't have any. How men unknowingly train this behavior. Here's the twist most men don't want to face. She's not the only one doing something wrong. You are too. You train her. You train her by over-apologizing just to restore physical closeness, backing down from your boundaries the second she withholds affection, ignoring your resentment because it's not worth the argument, treating sex like a scarce resource instead of a shared connection. Every time you cave, you send a message. This works on me. If you pull away, I'll chase. If you withhold, I'll negotiate with myself. And once that pattern is set, you become predictable. Predictability is power for the person willing to use it. You think you're being loving. You think you're being patient. You think you're being a good man. But here's the cruelest part. You're not being a good man. You're being a controllable one. Good and controllable are not the same thing. A good man has empathy, loyalty, presence. A controllable man abandons himself so he doesn't lose her. You know which one you've been. There's a point where something snaps in a man. Sometimes it's after years of this pattern. Sometimes it's after one moment that cuts deeper than the rest. You might not even be able to explain it, but you feel it. One night, she turns away again. Same script. Same routine. You reach, she rejects, you swallow it. But instead of turning inward and asking, what did I do wrong? You ask a different question. Why am I allowing myself to be treated like this? That's the moment everything changes. You see the pattern for what it is. It wasn't just that her drive was low, because it mysteriously rose when she wanted something. It wasn't just that she needed emotional connection, because she never had a problem being intimate when she felt like losing you. It wasn't just that she was going through a lot, because somehow a lot always appeared when you stood your ground. You start replaying scenes in your mind, the fight where she disappeared emotionally and you crawled back, the silent weeks where she let you twist in confusion instead of speaking honestly, the nights she used your desire as proof of your neediness, and while benefiting from your commitment and sacrifices. You see how many small moments you dismissed. You see how many times you told yourself, it's not a big deal. But it was. It always was. What men learn too late is this. Sex is not just about release, it's about respect. When she weaponizes sex, she isn't just closing her legs. She's closing respect. She's closing safety. She's closing the doorway to being vulnerable with her. And somewhere along the way, you stopped feeling safe with her. Not safe emotionally, not safe sexually. Not safe to be fully yourself without it being used against you later. You realize something brutal. You've been negotiating your masculinity for entry. You've been trading your backbone for her body. Not because you're weak, because you were never taught what this really was. You thought you were supposed to prove yourself, prove your love, prove your loyalty, prove your value. You never realized love that constantly makes you prove yourself isn't love. It's control wrapped in affection. So you sit with that realization. You feel anger, you feel grief, you feel stupid. How did I let it get this far? Why did I keep agreeing to this? Why did I betray myself for so long? Then another thought comes quietly. If I stay in this, I'm teaching her how to treat me for the rest of my life. That's the thought that saves men. Not the anger, not the hurt, the clarity that says, I'd rather be alone than controlled. I'd rather feel lonely in my own bed than humiliated in hers. I'd rather rebuild my life from scratch than live as a man who rents his own self-respect. Short, sharp, final. Let's shift, because now you see it. Now you understand what was happening. Now you understand why it hurt so much. Now you understand why you stayed longer than you should have. But here's what this teaches you. It teaches you that your desire is not a weakness. It's not a leash for someone to pull. It's a part of your humanity, sacred when shared with the right woman, destructive when negotiated with the wrong one. It teaches you that boundaries apply in the bedroom just as much as everywhere else. You're allowed to say, I won't be in a relationship where affection is used as punishment. I won't accept conditional intimacy that appears and disappears based on whether I obey. I won't trade my self-respect for access to anyone, no matter how beautiful, no matter how much history we have. Smart men understand this. You don't control when someone desires you, but you absolutely control whether you stay where your desire is constantly used against you. Peace is survival, even in your bed. So, what does reclaiming your power look like in this area? It's not some dramatic protest. It's not pouting or playing her game in reverse. That's still being controlled, just in a different direction. Reclaiming your power looks like this. Call the pattern, calmly. I've noticed something. When we disagree or when you're upset, intimacy disappears for days. Then it comes back when I apologize or give in. I won't live in a dynamic where sex is used to control behavior. We need to fix this or be honest that we want different things. Not emotional, not accusatory, clear. Watch the response, not the apology. If she denies, flips it on you, mocks you, or doubles down, believe that. If she listens, reflects, and actively works over time, not just for a week, to rebuild mutual desire and safety, that's different. That's workable. Set a non-negotiable, not because you're entitled to sex, Because you're entitled to a relationship where your needs aren't weaponized. If this pattern continues, I will not stay. We either build a relationship based on respect, honesty, and mutual desire, or we end this. And then the hardest part, be willing to walk. Not threaten, walk. A boundary without consequences is just a preference, and she's already seen how willing you are to adjust your preferences. This time, you don't bend, because you've finally understood. Your body is not a bargaining chip. Your presence, your loyalty, your commitment, those are not things someone gets to enjoy while starving your needs to keep you on a leash. From this moment forward, you set a new standard for yourself as a man. You decide you will not chase lukewarm desire. You will not beg to be wanted. You will not allow your masculinity to be regulated like a thermostat based on how perfectly you perform. Instead, you choose women who show consistent warmth, not just when they want something. Pay attention to how she handles conflict. Does she communicate, or does she punish? Refuse to stay where your sexuality is treated like a tool to be controlled instead of a gift you're offering. You start valuing something you used to ignore: emotional safety. Because here's the truth men learn too late. You can't be fully present, powerful, or loving with a woman you don't feel safe with. If you're constantly bracing for rejection, constantly tracking whether she's in the mood, constantly negotiating your truth to avoid punishment, you're not in a relationship. You're in a system built on power, not partnership. Step out of the system. The man you become on the other side. A strange thing happens when you stop letting sex control you. Your energy changes. You become less reactive, more grounded, less easily swayed, more deliberate, less scared of being alone, more selective about who gets to be close to you. You start to notice. You'd rather sleep alone in a quiet bed than share space with someone who makes you feel unworthy of touch. You'd rather be celibate for a season than engage in intimacy that costs you your self-respect. You'd rather walk away from a beautiful woman who uses sex as leverage than stay and slowly lose yourself. Not because you're bitter, not because you're afraid, not because you can't find love, but because you finally understand your worth. You realize she's not the prize. You're not the prize. Mutual respect is the prize. Mutual desire is the prize. Mutual safety is the prize. Anything less than that, you leave it behind. So remember this. You don't win by outplaying her game. You win by refusing to play a game with something as sacred as your body and your self-worth. Become the man who knows what drains him, knows what humiliates him, knows what he will never tolerate again, knows how precious his presence is. Build yourself until the idea of being controlled by anyone's mood, anyone's body, anyone's approval feels like an insult to who you are. Because once you truly understand your worth, something shifts. You stop orbiting other people's desires. You become your own gravitational pull. And in that state, women can no longer use sex to control you. They can only choose to join you or watch you walk away. Protect your peace. Protect your body. Protect your self-respect. The man who refuses to be controlled is the man who finally becomes free.